So, reproductive rights, abortion rights have been in the news a lot lately. So, I want to get into this story. These women ran an underground abortion network in the 1960s. Here's what they fear might happen today. The voice on the phone in 1966 was gruff and abrupt. Do you want the Chevy, the Cadillac, or the Rolls Royce? A Chevy abortion will cost about $200, cash in hand, the voice explained. A Cadillac was around $500, and the Rolls Royce was around $1,000. You can't afford more than a Chevy? Fine. Go to this address at this time. Don't be late. Don't forget the cash. Dory Barron told CNN she recalls staring blankly at the phone in her hand, startled by the empty tone. Then it hit her. She had just arranged an illegal abortion with the Chicago Mafia. The motel Barron was sent to was in an unfamiliar part of Chicago, a scary middle of nowhere. She said she was told to go to a specific room, sit on the bed, and wait. Suddenly, three men and a woman came in the door. I was petrified. They spoke all of three sentences to me the entire time. Where's the money? Lie back and do as I tell you. And finally, get in the bathroom. When the abortion was over, Barron said, then all of a sudden they were gone. Bleeding profusely, Barron managed to find a cab to take her home. When the bleeding didn't stop, her bedridden mother made her go to the hospital. At 24, Barron was taking care of her ailing mother and her 2-year-old daughter when she discovered she was pregnant. Her boyfriend, who had no job and lived with his parents, freaked, said Barron, who appears in a recent HBO documentary. The boyfriend suggested she get an abortion. She had never considered that an option. But what was I to do? My mom was taking care of my daughter from her bed while I worked. They would read and play games until I got home. How was either of us going to cope with the baby? Looking back, I was taking my life in my hands, said Barron. To this day, it gives me chills. If I had died, what in God's green earth would have happened to my mom and daughter? Women in the 1960s endured restrictions relatively unknown to women today. The so-called fairer sex could not serve on juries and often could not get in an Ivy League education. Women earned about half as much as a man doing the same job and were seldom promoted. Women could not get a credit card unless they were married, and then only if their husband co-signed. The same applied to birth control. Only the married need apply. More experienced women shared a workaround with the uninitiated. Go to Woolworth, buy a cheap wedding type ring, and wear it to your doctor's appointment, and don't forget to smile. This is a long article. There's going to be a part 2. So many women of today, 2023, are still saying that they're not a feminist. And it just blows my mind how little history so many of us know. The fact that we couldn't get medical care without our husband's permission. We couldn't get credit cards. We couldn't get a bank account. We couldn't do so much stuff. We couldn't get an education, or our educational opportunities were limited simply because we were born with a uterus. And these women fought for our rights to do what we wanted with our bodies. Marital grape wasn't legally considered grape. And of course, women had no legal right to terminate a pregnancy until 4 states, Alaska, Hawaii, New York, and Washington, legalized abortion in 1970, 3 years before Roe versus Wade became the law of the land. Illinois had no such protection, said Heather Booth, a longtime feminist, activist, and political strategist. 3 people discussing having an abortion in Chicago in 1965 was considered a conspiracy to commit felony unaliving. Despite that danger, a courageous band of young women, most in their 20s, some in college, some married with children, banded together in Chicago to create an underground abortion network. The group was officially created in 1969 as the Abortion Counseling Service of Women's Liberation. But after running ads in an underground newspaper, pregnant, don't want to be? Call Jane. Each member of the group answered the phone as Jane. We were co-conspirators with the women who called us, said 75-year-old Laura Kaplan, who published a book about the service in 1997 entitled The Story of Jane, the legendary underground feminist abortion service. We'll protect you. We hope you'll protect us, Kaplan said. We'll take care of you, and we hope you'll take care of us. What started as referrals to legitimate abortion providers changed to personalized service when some members of Jane learned to safely do the abortion themselves. Between the late 1960s and 1973, the year that the Supreme Court decided Roe v. Wade, Jane had arranged or performed over 11,000 abortions. Our culture is always searching for heroes, but you don't have to be a hero to do extraordinary things. Jane was just ordinary people working together, and look what we could accomplish, which is amazing, right? Even after several members were caught and arrested, the group continued to provide abortions for women too poor to travel to states where abortion had been legalized. I prayed a lot. I didn't want to go to jail. Some of us had little children. Some were sole breadwinners. It was fearlessness in the face of overwhelming odds. This is what's going to happen again if our reproductive rights continue to get eroded. We're not going to go back. There will be subservices. Women will help you.